came across this video, odds are you have a 2017 plus Ford Super Duty, likely with a Carli lift. That leaves you in the same boat as the rest of us, either with no spare tire, or if you did purchase an oversized matching spare, then you have nowhere to put it, unless you want to give up valuable bed space. Today, we're going to show you the Carli Trophy Hitch, which is a solution to this problem, as well as how to install it. Not the way I want to start a video, but unfortunately it's got to be with a little bit of heartbreak. This is a Ford Super Duty product only. The 2017 Plus requires this product to fit a 37 or 38 inch spare. The 2011 to 2016 Super Duty, you don't need any modifications to your factory hitch. You can put a 37 in there. Never tested a 38, but that's good information either way. The Ram platform, unfortunately, between the narrow frame rails and then the rear pumpkin to bumper, you just can't fit a 37 inch spare. Even if we remove the hitch, build our own, you cannot fit a 37 inch spare in there. So this is, again, a Ford Super Duty product only. So now let's get to the fun part. We'll introduce you to the truck. Those of you who follow our channel will recognize this. It belongs to a good customer of ours named Scott Gary. His truck was the one that we used to prototype all of our 17 to 19 systems and double check and make sure everything fit on the 2020 model. On Scott's truck, you'll find a fully optioned 4.5 inch pin top suspension system, putting him in exactly the same situation we alluded to in the intro. He needs to find a place for his 37 13.5 Toyo mud terrain spare wheel and tire. He currently has it sitting in the pickup bed and it's leaning on his fifth wheel hitch. Problem is, he obviously needs this spare setup when he's towing his fifth wheel, but he has no current place to put it. It's not hard to tell why he was beating down our door to be the first in line for one of these trophy hitches. The construction of this hitch is a combination of 3/16 and 1/4 inch American cold rolled steel. The whole point is to fit a 37 and 38 inch spare tire in the factory location. We wanted to accomplish this utilizing a very strong design, additionally picking up on factory mounting points without any modification to your frame rail. We even utilized the factory winch to hoist the oversized spare tire in place. A lot of guys ask, why would you have that 3-way tie strap if you're going to maintain the factory hoist? Well, anybody who's ever tried to hoist a 150-pound wheel and tire into position knows why we maintained the winch. It makes it a heck of a lot easier. And then why we do the 3-way strap, I'll let our customer Brandon answer that question. Oh, fuck. We know that not everybody's going to be taking their truck off-road, jumping it like Brandon does. Our kits are made to take these trucks in the dirt and drive to varying degrees. But the point of that video was to demonstrate that the factory winch cable is not sufficient at holding the weight of an oversized wheel and tire combo. The last thing that we want to have happen is have you drop your spare tire on the trail, or even worse, on the freeway when you can't swerve to avoid hitting something that fell off a truck in front of you and you throw your spare tire at the Accord that's following you. Moving on to the installation portion of this video. First thing you want to do is make sure you have everything that was supposed to come with it. Luckily, this is a pretty simple assembly. You only need the hitch itself and the 3-way tie strap. The next step in the process is to remove your factory spare tire. In your rear bumper, there's a little keyed plug that needs to be removed to access the winch to lower the spare tire. You use your key to do so. On this style of key that has an actual key, you press the button, and obviously that is going to be the key that you use to remove that plug. On the push-to-start versions of these trucks, you have this style of key. On this one, there's a little black button. You press that and you pull out, and then that will reveal the key that you use to remove the plug, the valet key that's within the push-to-start key. With the factory spare tire removed, you will now have access to the electrical fittings that are held into the hitch by push-lock fittings. You'll need to either press these from the backside or use a panel popper tool to remove all of them from the hitch. It's important to note that if you have the fifth wheel prep package with a plug in the bed, you will have this harness that routes around the hitch. You'll have to disconnect this harness to ensure that it doesn't hold up the hitch from dropping out of the chassis. Next, you'll use a 13mm socket to remove the 2 bolts holding the upper trim piece to the front of the hitch. Now that you've freed the electrical connections and you've removed the bolts from the trim piece, the only thing holding the hitch in place is the 6 bolts per side, or 12 total, that secure the hitch to the chassis. The front 8 bolts that secure the hitch are inserted from the bottom up through the hitch into captured nut brackets that sit inside the frame rail. The rear 4 bolts are inserted from the top into captured nut brackets. To make life much easier, we highly recommend using a torch to heat the nuts where you can access them. If you can't access the nuts, then you can heat the bolt head. We used a 1/2-inch drive flex head on a 24mm socket to remove the rearmost bolts, and an impact with a 24mm socket to remove the remaining bolts. The first ones we do are the rearmost. The second set of bolts that we removed are the frontmost, and then we will support the hitch with jack stands before we remove the last 4 center bolts. With all the bolts removed, the next step is to remove the factory hitch. It's not all that heavy, but it is pretty awkward as the weight is biased toward the rear of the truck, so it does help to have somebody assist you in this portion. We get 2 guys, hold the hitch, lower the jack stands, and then gently remove the hitch from the back end of the truck. This trim piece can now be removed as it is not reused with the Carli hitch. A panel popper tool will make short work of the push lock fittings that retain it. Now is the time to clean up the factory wiring that was dislodged or removed in order to remove the factory hitch. You can't have any harnesses hanging. Nothing can be blocking the cross members that are above the factory hitch, as the Carli hitch has a large top plate the factory hitch doesn't. This top plate seats flush to the cross members that were open with the factory hitch. So you'll need to put the wiring over these cross members and route it in such a way that it won't get pinched between the upper plate of the Carli hitch and these cross members. We didn't get to record this step, unfortunately, but if your truck is equipped with the little buffer pads on the spare tire cross member, they'll need to be removed. Use a small socket to pull the bolt out that retains them, get behind them with a pry bar and pop them out, because they will prevent the upper plate of our hitch from seating against that spare tire cross member. Your truck is now prepped for installation of the trophy hitch. Step 1 on installation would be to insert the captured nut brackets back into the frame rail. Ensure that the threaded holes line up with the holes in the frame. Placing the trophy hitch onto the jack stands and into the truck is going to be the most difficult portion of the installation, given the trophy hitch weighs about 140 pounds. You're going to want to do a couple dry runs on this, get a few people together, figure out what you need to comfortably get this thing into position so that you can secure it with at least 4 bolts before letting it go. We have these exhaust jack stands here. They spin up into position, so we covered them with some rags to protect that powder coat finish on the trophy hitch, placed it on the jack stands and spun it into position before we secured it with the 4 bolts. If you're at home, you may not have this luxury. You might want to get 2, 3, or 4 of your neighbors to help push this thing into position while you get these bolts started so that it's no longer dangerously hanging from the back of the truck. With 2 bolts on each side securing the hitch, you can remove the jack stands that hold it to the frame rail and work on getting the rest of the bolts in. The 4 frontmost, or 2 per side, will go in very easily to those captured nut brackets, as will the center bolts on both sides. When you're installing the rearmost bolt set, our recommendation here is to flip them. If you remember, when you pulled these out, you had to come in from the top. When we install the trophy hitches, we put the captured nut brackets on the top and we insert the bolts from the bottom for ease of installation. With all 12 bolts installed or at least hand threaded, you can move on to the torquing process. Ensure that the hitch is as centered as possible, because you'll see that there's a little bit of shifting around that you can do even with the bolts installed, and then use a long extension and a 24mm shallow socket to torque the hardware to 270 foot-pounds. The gusseting on the trophy hitch will make these bolts on both sides inaccessible by a socket. You'll need to use a crow's foot to torque these. With the hitch installed, you can now turn your attention to the factory exhaust. We talk about this on the website, but you will have to clearance your exhaust for this larger spare tire and hitch combination. How much modification is going to be required will depend on variance in the truck, variance in the exhaust, which tire you chose, the actual size of that tire. There's a lot that comes into play here, which is why we just tell you, you have to modify the exhaust. Even though we've had customers throw in non-aggressive 37-inch tires and they're comfortable with the clearance they have between that tire and the factory exhaust, we've had to modify it in every situation for our comfort level, and we leave enough meat for the exhaust shop to go in there and do what they need to do. Below the resonator that sits behind the axle, you'll see that there's a heat shield around the factory exhaust. We measure a couple inches down from that resonator and mark it with a yellow marker. We score this with a cutoff wheel to make room for the Sawzall to come in and remove this section of the exhaust. Once you've used a Sawzall to remove the exhaust, you can remove it from the truck. With the exhaust removed from the truck, we remove the hanger from the removed section of the exhaust. Where you cut through on the heat shield, you'll see a weld that holds that heat shield to the main exhaust tube. We use a flap disc and cutoff wheel to remove this portion by cutting out this weld. With the exhaust hanger that you removed from the tailpipe section, we reform this around that section of tailpipe, and then we put it through the hanger that we pulled it out of. We weld this to ensure that the full exhaust system is supported. That completes the modification that we made to this exhaust and all shop trucks here. The last step is to address the wiring harnesses that you push to the rear of the spare tire crossmember to prepare yourself for installation. There are 4 holes drilled through the gussets in the trophy hitch to which you will connect the push lock fittings. You're now ready to install your spare tire. Use the factory provided tools to lower the winch cable through the hub bore. Your wheel and tire combination should be facing upward. Again, using the factory provided tools, crank the wheel and tire combination up into the trophy hitch, ensuring it's centered as you raise it, and the factory winch pulls tension on the hub face. With the spare secured into the trophy hitch by the factory winch cable, use the provided 3-way tie-down strap to secure the wheel and tire combo. With everything fully installed, double check and make sure you have sufficient clearance on the exhaust to the tire and the tie strap. A special mention here, if you have the Carli Deaver springs in the back, you'll see the rear spring retainer hardware may contact the trophy hitch as you articulate the truck. It's up to you whether or not you want to leave this. It could cause a noise or scratch up the hitch. We recommend removing this bolt nut and crush sleeve combo, as the spring retainer will do its job just fine without the bolt being in place. And that, ladies and gentlemen, concludes the installation process for the trophy hitch. Feel free to drop us a comment if you've got any questions here. Other than that, enjoy having the most convenient way to store a full-size spare on your Ford Super Duty.